Lifting of lockdowns need to be done gradually, says the World Health Organization. President Rodrigo Duterte submits his fourth report on the Bayanihan to Heal as One law to Congress. The Interior Department chief confirms that President Duterte consults former health chiefs and experts on lifting the ECQ. France becomes fourth country to pass 20,000 coronavirus death toll. American President Donald Trump announces he'll sign an order to temporarily suspend immigration to the U.S. A Chilean beach community turns to high-tech drones for delivery of needs to the elderly, while teddy bears remind shoppers to observe social distancing in a French magazine store.
The World Health Organization has a warning to countries in the Western Pacific region. It is also worried about the high rate of infection among frontline healthcare workers in the Philippines. Laiko Miguel details why.
Countries should be cautious when deciding to lift lockdowns or community quarantines. This is what the World Health Organization reiterated to the 22 countries in the Western Pacific region, which includes the Philippines.
But WHO strongly urges that decisions be guided by public health principles. The lifting of lockdowns and other measures needs to be done gradually. I'm sure nobody wants to see another spike in case by rushing to lift restrictions too soon.
WHO Western Pacific Regional Director Dr. Takeshi Kazai emphasized unless a vaccine or a treatment is developed, then countries are advised not to put things back to normal. For now, countries should live with and accept the new normal amid the COVID-19 crisis until there are no more COVID-19 infections and deaths. Meanwhile, WHO also worries over the high infection rate of healthcare workers in the Philippines. The country has so far recorded 13% infection rate among frontline healthcare workers.
The worrisome trend we are seeing in Philippines, the percentage of 13% is, as I mentioned, is worrisome. In our region, overall is around 2 to 3%, where countries South Korea, Australia, and Japan have low percentage. So Philippines is a bit of an outlier, and we are working very closely with the Ministry of Health to determine the reasons why Philippines has a high percentage of around 13% among infection among healthcare workers.
WHO strongly points out that no matter how difficult the situation of countries are in right now, it's still better to strictly implement stringent health measures than to let people suffer a wider spread of the COVID-19 pandemic and a resurgence of infection and transmission. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Among the highlights of the President's report to Congress on the Bayanihan to Heal as One law is the protection for persons deprived of liberty from COVID-19. The report includes a proposal on a cremate now, pay later plan. Rosalie Cos reports why.
President Rodrigo Duterte has cited the accomplishments of various government agencies and instrumentality under the Bayanihan to Heal as One law during the past week in his fourth report to the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee. Among this is the protection of persons deprived of liberty or PDLs amidst the coronavirus disease pandemic. The Board of Pardons and Parole is formulating guidelines for the expeditious release of elderly PDLs, the sickly, those suffering from terminal illnesses or with serious disabilities, as well as PDLs eligible for parole or executive clemency. To ensure protection against the new coronavirus, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology has been monitoring and strictly enforcing preventive measures against COVID-19 transmission. The President's report also mentions the proposal of the Metropolitan Development Authority to arrange an agreement between the national government and cremation service providers for the Cremate Now, Pay Later plan. Once approved, this will help indigents whose relatives died from coronavirus disease. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government confirms that President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to come up with a decision on the ECQ after April 30. Leia Ilagan details why.
In today's episode of the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, DILG Secretary Eduardo Año said the President is consulting the country's former health secretaries and experts on the lifting of enhanced community quarantine.
Pinakinggan niya isa-isa yung ating mga dating health secretaries, yung ating mga experts, epidemiologists, at mga medical practitioners.
But the DILG believes that lifting the ECQ after April 30 is not advisable if the country's testing capacity is not more than 8,000 tests per day.
Kung hindi natin maitataas yung testing capacity natin, do not lift the ECQ, do not lift the lockdown. It's useless kung wala kang testing capacity kasi magiging bulag ka eh.
Secretary Año added 12 million people will be infected in just 6 weeks if our testing capability will not improve and the lockdown is lifted.
Meron tayong mga pinatawag na isiset ng mga conditions natin na kailangang susundin ng mga tao. Pag hindi mo yung sinunod, huwag na tayo mag-lift ng lockdown. Kasama na dyan yung physical, social distancing. Protektahan natin yung mga elderly, yung mga matatanda, yung mga mayroong health issues, tinamaan niya ng sakit talagang pwedeng mamatay ka agad. Kasi mga tao na maraming activities. Ito yung mga tinatawag natin ng mga estudyante para sigurado na pag-ilip natin yung lockdown ay ligtas pa rin ng mga tao.
The DILG chief also confirmed they have ordered to stop the implementation of window hours in marketplaces. Instead, local governments are encouraged to enforce schedules per day for residents to exercise social distancing.
Pero pag binigyan mo siya ng 4 na oras lang kayo, ikaw na nagbutas, magkumpulang kayo sa 4 na oras na to. Ano yun?
Secretary Año also encourages local chief executives to approve ordinances on imposing sanctions on ECQ and curfew violators to be implemented by the Philippine National Police. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Cabinet Secretary and spokesperson of the IATF versus COVID-19 underscores that a total lockdown is not in their vocabulary. Arlene Delgado explains why.
The IATF-EID has debunked claims that have been circulating online that President Rodrigo Duterte is set to announce a total lockdown next week. According to Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, a total lockdown is not part of any of their discussions.
Wala kasi sa vocabulary namin yung total lockdown. Ang discipline naman namin sa IATF is quarantine, no? Community quarantine, modified or enhanced or general community quarantine. So we never use yung lockdown.
The Cabinet Secretary says they need more time to review the set of options which will be presented once again to President Duterte. Nograles cited the option of modified quarantine and its factors to be considered, including geographical locations of areas with most number of cases, demography, various industries, and transportation that can resume operations but still observing physical distancing protocol.
Sinabi ni Pangulo, okay, balik niyo muna sa IATF, usap kayo ulit, and then come back to me again kung ano yung napag-desisyonan ninyo or napag-agrihan ninyo at yung mga output ninyo.
The Interagency Task Force assures to be mindful of the guidelines from the World Health Organization and stakeholders in crafting its recommendations. Nograles adds they are more confident in modifying the quarantine with the expansion of mass testing. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Residents of Sampaloc District in Manila City will not be able to go out of their homes starting 8 p.m. on Thursday, April 23. This is due to the imposition of the 48-hour hard lockdown by the city government, brought about by the rising number of local COVID-19 cases. Under the area lockdown, Sampaloc residents will be prohibited from leaving their homes except for the frontliners, essential government employees, service workers, barangay officials, and media practitioners accredited by the Presidential Communications Operations Office and the Interagency Task Force.
For purposes of disease, surveillance, verification, or testing, and rapid risk assessment in relation to COVID-19.
The lockdown will last until Saturday, April 25, 8 p.m.
The World Health Organization Director General reminds countries that without global solidarity against a common enemy, the worst is yet ahead of us. Mac Cordova explains why.
The world needs to come together to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, said World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus at virtual conference in Geneva, Switzerland on Monday. The WHO chief warns that the worst is yet ahead of us without global solidarity.
If we take this as a common enemy for humanity and give our best, of course understanding that this is a new virus and dangerous virus, we can win the fight. Without the two, without national unity and global solidarity, trust us, the worst is yet ahead of us. Let's prevent this tragedy.
The WHO's top official urges countries not to politicize the virus, but to work together as it continues to spread throughout the world.
Please work together. Don't use this virus as an opportunity to fight against each other or score political punches. It's dangerous. It's like playing with fire. It's the political problem that may fuel further this pandemic.
The world now has more than 2.4 million coronavirus cases and counting. Mac Cordova, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, France has just reached a symbolic but painful mark according to one of its officials. Jovic Burmas explains why.
France officially registered more than 20,000 deaths from coronavirus infections on Monday. It becomes the fourth country in the world to go beyond that threshold after Italy, Spain, and the United States. French Public Health Chief Jerome Salomon said it's a symbolic yet painful mark. The official noted hospital deaths account for most of the fatalities, tallying at more than 12,000, while those in nursing homes account for almost 8,000. The fall in the number of death cases in intensive care suggests the national lockdown put in place more than a month ago is having positive effects in containing the disease, the official added. Meanwhile, Parisians said on Monday they agree that masks should be compulsory in public transport when France begins to lift its lockdown next month. Measures such as social distancing, rapid testing, and likely the mandatory use of face masks on public transport will be required when that time comes, Prime Minister Edouard Philippe said on Sunday. Jovic Burmas, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
U.S. President Donald Trump wrote a tweet on Monday he will sign an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration to the United States. He says this is in light of the attack from the coronavirus, as well as the need to protect the jobs of U.S. citizens. Millions of Americans are suffering unemployment after companies shed employees amid nationwide lockdowns to stop the contagion. Trump's announcement comes as he and some governors have announced moves to partially reopen the U.S. economy. The White House declined to offer further details about the reasoning behind the decision, its timing, or its legal basis. Now, here's the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached almost 2.5 million confirmed cases in 185 countries and territories. The fast-spreading disease has claimed 171,152 lives, while 656,010 patients around the globe have recovered. The United States of America now has nearly 800,000 confirmed cases, with 42,364 death cases, the only country that has surpassed the 40,000 death toll. Spain has more than 200,000 cases as of today, with Italy almost reaching that number too. France and Germany are still included among the top 5 countries worst hit by the coronavirus pandemic. The United Kingdom also joins the countries with more than 100,000 red numbers. Turkey, on the other hand, is the country outside of the US and Europe with the highest number of cases, reaching almost 100,000. China, Iran, and Russia are also among 10 countries most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Philippines remains as the 6th most hit country in the Western Pacific region, with 6,599 total confirmed cases as of today, with 140 new positives. 41 more patients have recovered from the disease. Total recoveries now stand at 654. The death toll is now at 437 as we lost the lives of 9 more patients. President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to make a final decision on the Luzonwide enhanced community quarantine in Luzon due to end 9 days from now. This while the chief executive also offers a cash reward to any Filipino who will find a cure against the invisible enemy. Rosa Dicos reports why.
President Rodrigo Duterte is willing to give 10 million pesos to reward any Filipino who will discover a vaccine against COVID-19. He will also provide a substantial grant to the University of the Philippines and Philippine General Hospital to help them develop a potential vaccine to fight the deadly virus.
Inanunsyo po ng Pangulo na siya magbibigay ng pabuya ng hanggang 10 milyong piso sa kahit sinong Pilipino na makakadiskubre ng vaccine laban sa COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the president has yet to decide on the Luzonwide enhanced community quarantine due to end on April 30. This is despite a 5-hour discussion yesterday with health experts, congressional leaders, and his cabinet members. According to Secretary Roque, no one among them recommended a total lockdown or total lifting of the EZQ.
Ang opsyon na lumabas kahapon ay ipagpatuloy, di naman kaya i-relax o di naman kaya completely itigil ang ECQ sa iba't ibang lugar ng bansa. Depende sa dami ng kaso ng COVID-19.
The high numbers of COVID-19 cases in the country are in Metro Manila, parts of Bulacan, Calabarzon, Cebu, and Davao cities with similar centers of commerce and mass transportation. President Duterte also awaits the full recommendations of the IATF against coronavirus, public health experts, and the World Health Organization for his decision on the Luzon-wide EZQ. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo says that President Rodrigo Duterte may decide on the Luzon-wide enhanced community quarantine on Thursday, April 23. The chief executive will also meet with the Interagency Task Force against Coronavirus on that day. The senator said President Duterte wants the public to prepare for whatever the government's decision will be at least 1 week before the Luzon-wide ECQ is due to end. The PNP's SAF troopers will be seen in action in 10 public markets after getting deployed amid the ECQ. Dante Amento explains why.
Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Iliazar gave special instructions to the members of the Philippine National Police Special Action Force this morning. This is part of the police deployment in 10 public markets in Metro Manila, including the public marketplaces in Pasig and Marikina cities and the Blumentritt markets in Manila City. 116 SAF troopers will assist the local authorities and law enforcers to maintain order in those crowded areas. General Eleazar ordered the SAF commandos to apprehend residents who will violate the ECQ protocols.
Pero kung sakali, with your presence at pagpapatuloy pa rin sila sa paglabag sa mga tuntunin ng ating enhanced community quarantine, hulihin nyo! Andyan kasama ang mga taga-station 3 natin para sila ay ating bigyan ng leksyon.
Violators will either be jailed or charged with a case.
Inaasahan natin na ang mga matitigas ang ulo ng ating mga kabayan sa presence pa lang ng ating mga SAF troopers ay susunod na. Subalit kung hindi sila susunod, ipairal natin ang ating batas. Pantay-pantay ang pagpatupad ng alituntunin ng ECQ.
General Eleazar also stressed that monitoring in public markets must be strengthened.
Hindi ito martial law or ala martial law. Dagdag lang na tropa. But ang tinitingnan natin, lahat ng mga karapatan, lahat ng protocols, walang pagbabago. Nagdagdag lang tayo ng mga tropa.
Ito nga, tinap kami para tumulong sa pag-i-enforce ng ating tinatawag na social distancing, especially sa mga madalas crowded na areas like yung mga markets.
The two police officials inspected the Blumentritt markets this morning. General Eleazar personally asked several vendors to follow the ECQ guidelines, particularly social distancing. From Blumentritt, they proceeded to Libertad and Pasig public markets. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, 10 foreign nationals can now fly back home after getting stranded in Palawan for a month. Meanwhile, residents in a barangay in Zambales provinces filled their dining tables with hot breakfast today. Patrick Alforte tells us why.
The Philippine Coast Guard today assisted the Department of Tourism in welcoming 10 international tourists who arrived on an arranged sea voyage at Pier 15, Port Area, Manila this morning. The foreign nationals from Great Britain, Germany, Switzerland, and Japan were stranded in Coron, Palawan for over a month due to the declaration of enhanced community quarantine in Luzon, according to the PCG. After distributing light meals, the PCG personnel transported them to NAIA Terminal 1 for their flight back to their home countries. The PCG also distributed face masks to several fishermen who went fishing at the waters of Navotas City earlier today. The fisher folks were reminded to always wear a face mask and observe other measures to prevent COVID-19 infection such as social distancing and regular hand washing. Meanwhile, in Zambales, several Coast Guard and Navy officers and personnel distributed free breakfast to these residents in Barangay Sindol, San Felipe Town this morning. This is through their initiative to continue serving the Filipinos amid the ECQ. Patrick Alforte, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Marikina City COVID-19 Testing Center has yet to open officially until today. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us the reason why.
The Marikina City COVID-19 Testing Center just needs to accomplish the proficiency training for it to be accredited by the Department of Health or DOH. The training involves actual simulation of polymerase chain reaction or PCR of live virus specimens from the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine or RITM. It was scheduled to be accomplished yesterday, but the transport of the specimens from the RITM to the city's testing center was done at noon today.
Dapat tapos na kahapon eh. Dapat pinadala ng RITM dito yung test panel. Pero siguro masyadong maraming gawain yun sa RITM. Siguro dahil nagkaroon pa ng infection dun sa nag-contamination sa RITM.
The proficiency training is expected to immediately commence and yield results through PCR in about 3 hours. As of yet, there has been no confirmation about the accreditation of the city's COVID-19 testing center. Once accredited, swabbing operations will immediately follow. About 200 COVID-19 suspect cases are on their priority list, which includes frontliners, medical workers, police and security personnel, volunteers and barangay officials conducting food distribution, immunocompromised persons, and senior citizens. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases releases revised interim guidelines for the government expanded testing for COVID-19. It says indiscriminate testing of people with no close contact with COVID-19 positive cases is not recommended. Arlene Delgado clarifies why.
The government's COVID-19 expanded testing aims to test all individuals who are at risk of contracting COVID-19. According to IATF EID spokesperson, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, those who will be tested are suspect cases, individuals with relevant history of travel and exposure, or contact to positive cases, whether symptomatic and asymptomatic, and healthcare workers with possible exposure, whether symptomatic and asymptomatic. Those who will be prioritized are patients and healthcare workers who have severe or critical symptoms and have travel history and contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case, and then those in the vulnerable sector. Patients and healthcare workers who have mild to no symptoms but have travel history and contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case, or those previously called persons under monitoring or PUMs, will also be tested. However, testing of those with no close contact with a confirmed case is not recommended. All subnational laboratories are directed to allocate between 20 to 30% of their daily testing capacity for health workers and the remaining 70 to 80% for patients. Real-time polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR test kits approved by the Food and Drug Administration and the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine will be used in confirmatory tests. Meanwhile, rapid antibody-based test kits shall not be used as standalone tests to diagnose COVID-19 cases. These must be used in conjunction with RT-PCR tests. Only the rapid antibody-based test kits approved by the FDA and locally validated by the RITM or the Department of Science and Technology may be used. Only licensed medical doctors may request and administer antibody test kits. Also in the guidelines, testing of all symptomatic patients who are close contact of a known or probable case must be conducted by healthcare workers equipped with personal protective equipment or PPEs, which must be disposed in accordance with the existing guidelines on the management of healthcare waste. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Research Institute for Tropical Medicine scales down its operations until April 24. Aiko Miguel, tell us why.
The Research Institute for Tropical Medicine or RITM's operations has scaled down according to a DOH report last Saturday.
Upang bigyan daan ang ilang safety measures para masiguro ang kaligtasan ng ating mga healthcare workers. Maari po itong makaapekto sa pagtatala natin ng number of cases sa mga susunod na araw. Pero hindi ibig sabihin ay titigil ang kanilang operasyon.
There are approximately 5,000 specimens pending confirmatory results. Today, based on RITM's update, the facility scaled down its operation to make way for disinfection procedures in its laboratory because 43 out of its 790 staff members have tested positive for COVID-19. As some of them are infected, the laboratory's operation is affected. On April, an RITM encoder tested positive, the first case among RITM personnel, after which other employees were also diagnosed with COVID-19 though asymptomatic. According to RITM Director Dr. Celia Carlos, it is difficult to identify whether the staff got infected in their workplace or through community transmission. Asymptomatic positive cases among them are allowed to be discharged only when their results turn out negative in 2 tests. Those asymptomatic must still undergo a 14-day isolation period. The scale down of RITM's operation operation will last until April 24, Friday. But Dr. Celia Carlos emphasized this doesn't mean the laboratory will have to stop its operations. RITM is a designated national COVID-19 reference laboratory in the country. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police denies alleged abuse of power when some cops entered a private property in Taguig City. The police say they are ready in case of an investigation into the incident. Joanano reports why.
A video of some policemen who went inside Pacific Plaza Tower condominium in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig has gone viral on social media. The incident happened afternoon of April 19. The video shows a policeman shouting at residents who are seen outside their units. Because of the incident, the police are being accused of abuse of power as they intruded a private property without a search warrant. However, the police clarified they have received reports that residents of the condominium building are violating ECQ protocols. The police officers arrived to validate the information.
Kasi maraming condominium din pinasasara para ma-observe ang social distancing. Sumunod yung iba. Ito naman hindi sumunod. Ngayon, during the conduct of pagpunta ng ating police ngayon, nasa loob din sila, nakita nila na mayroong iba na hindi man sumusunod. Pagkatapos, syempre sisitahin yan.
The PNP say they are ready to cooperate should an investigation is launched against the policemen.
While it is true na iniimbestigahan natin yan, yun lang gusto nang ipakita yung sumisigaw na pulis. Alam mo, kung dahil sa pagsigaw, makukulong yun, dapat matagal na ako nakulong.
Meanwhile, Taguig City Mayor Lino Cayetano agrees a probe must be conducted. He emphasized, however, violators will be penalized.
Kung meron mo sa aming umabuso, we will ask them to explain. Kung kailangan, kakasuhan natin. Ngunit sa kabilang banda, we also ask our citizens to be accountable. Kailangan sumunod tayo sa rules ng Enhanced Community Quarantine. We will not hesitate to file charges.
The PNP reiterates the law should be equally imposed. Citizens must abide regardless of social status.
Pag mahirap na nag-violate, huli agad, kaso agad. Pag mayaman, ang daming protocol na dapat gawin. Isa lamang dapat natin gawin ECQ ito, sumunod lahat. Sumunod lahat. Pag lumabas ka, sundin mo yung dapat mong gawin. Anywhere, anytime, regardless of your social status.
Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
It is uncertain whether the enhanced community quarantine will end by the month ends or not. Along with this uncertainty, some Filipinos rely on assistance from the government. Who are entitled to the government's emergency subsidy and how much one can get? Let's find out as Hardin Delgado reports.
Under the government's social amelioration program, 18 million families or low-income households will receive 5,000 to 8,000 pesos worth of emergency subsidy depending on the prevailing minimum wage rate in the region. Beneficiaries living in the National Capital Region will receive 8,000 pesos, 6,500 pesos for those in Region 3 and Region 4A Calabarzon, 6,000 pesos in Region 6, 7, 10, and 11. 5,500 pesos for Cordillera Administrative Region and Regions 1 and 2, and 5,000 pesos for Regions 4B, 5, 8, 9, 12, Caraga, and ARMM. If you are a public utility vehicle driver, be it a jeepney, bus, taxi, or transport network vehicle service, you are also entitled to a cash subsidy. Just visit the official list of SAP drivers on the LTFRB's Facebook page to know if you are a qualified beneficiary. If you are an overseas Filipino worker whose work has been affected by the pandemic and has yet to receive any compensation from your employer, you are entitled to the Department of Labor and Employment's emergency subsidy worth $200 or 10,000 pesos. If you are a rice farmer with less than a hectare of land, you are also entitled to a one-time cash assistance worth 5,000 pesos from the Department of Agriculture through the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. Farmers of other crops will also receive emergency subsidy under SAP. Workers and small businesses will also receive aid under the Department of Finance Small Wage Business Subsidy Program worth 5,000 to 8,000 pesos, just like the SAP. Informal sector workers are also part of SAP's target beneficiaries, including house help, variety store owners, vegetable vendors, stranded workers, and others who work under the No Work No Pay scheme. In Manila, the city government gave 1,000 pesos per family each to over 500 families in the city. In Quezon City, beneficiaries of the Kalinga QC program are given an additional 2,000 pesos, including PUV drivers, solo parents, vendors, persons with disabilities, and senior citizens. In Pasig City, those who were not in the SAP's list of beneficiaries will be given aid by the city government. Horlin Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Duraos live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. Hundreds of Bolivians stranded near Chile's border last week returned home on Monday. This comes after the two countries reached a deal to allow the nationals to cross the frontier that had been closed to stop the spread of the new coronavirus. Their informal jobs in host country Chile had dried up amid the pandemic, forcing many to make the decision to return home. Officials in Bolivia say the group had been in quarantine in Chile and do not have coronavirus symptoms. Shelters have also been set up in Bolivia for the returnees to be checked up and put in quarantine at home. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet urges countries in Latin America to open their borders to their own nationals. A city councilor in Portugal promises to safeguard even asylum seekers from coronavirus, but some have already been infected. Chris Perez tells us why.
138 asylum seekers out of 175 being housed at a hostel in central Lisbon tested positive for COVID-19. This was confirmed by City Councilor Carlos Castro on Monday. Residents were evacuated for testing after one positive case had been discovered among the residents. Those whose results are negative will be taken back to the hostel, which was decontaminated on Sunday afternoon.
So regardless of their origin or condition, we are treating with people. So it is necessary to safeguard these people. At the same time, we are working in another dimension. And that is the safety of this community that lives here or works here, so there is stability and safety in Lisbon.
According to the Portuguese Council of Refugees, the process had gone smoothly. However, it is concerned about the possibility of contagion in other hostels where social distancing is difficult. The Council of Refugees is responsible for temporary accommodation of asylum seekers as their applications are being processed. It is currently housing 950 people, 150 in its own centers and 800 in hostels. Portugal has so far recorded over 20,000 confirmed coronavirus cases. Chris Perez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump described a historic drop in oil prices on Monday as short-term and stemming from a financial squeeze, adding the administration would consider stopping oil shipments from Saudi Arabia to lift the market. Judith Anufuente explains why.
Prices of U.S. crude oil dropped to the lowest level for the first time in 20 years on Monday, at one point plunging roughly 300% as the ongoing coronavirus pandemic has frozen demand for and fueled an oversupply of domestic oil. West Texas Intermediate crude for May delivery tanked more than 40% to trade below $11 per barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange, the lowest level since 1998. West Texas Intermediate, or WTI contracts, are widely viewed as a key benchmark for American oil, as opposed to Brent crude contracts that are traded more internationally. The WTI May contracts that dove into negative territory will expire on Tuesday. The delivery of that oil would take place while much of the U.S. economy is still on lockdown to guard against the spread of the coronavirus. Looking further out, WTI future contracts for June and July have yet to fall below zero. Perhaps a sign of optimism that market conditions will improve in the months ahead. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the country's top medical expert, however, warns that the U.S. will not recover economically until the ravaging coronavirus is under control, citing citizens who ignore their governor's stay-at-home orders. Judith Anofuente, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Those are the reasons behind the news abroad. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Kath Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Another football club at La Liga showed solidarity in order to protect its workers amid the coronavirus pandemic. Aaron Romero explains why.
Spanish club Valencia has joined other top football clubs in announcing a pay cut for players and coaches. The aim is to help ease the financial impact caused by the suspension of games due to the coronavirus pandemic. A statement from the club on Monday said team players have shown solidarity by reducing their salaries in order to help the club to protect its workers and their families in such complicated circumstances. The club did not give details of the pay cut agreements. Valencia was 7th in La Liga when football in Spain was indefinitely postponed last month with 11 games remaining. Barcelona and Atletico Madrid had previously announced 70% pay cuts agreed by players and coaches to ensure other employees would continue to receive their full salaries. Real Madrid's players and coaches have pledged to take an annual pay cut of between 10 and 20%. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
High-tech drones are now being used in a Chilean beach, this time not for ocean rescue, but to deliver necessities to the elderly. Mirasol Abogadil tells us why.
Controlled by municipal workers, the high-tech drones bring medications, masks, and hand sanitizers to the elderly, the poor, and many who lack transportation in Sapallar, a wealthy beach community in Chile. A heavy-duty 4-propeller drone, complete with landing gear, is loaded with a bag of supplies in the city center, then blasts off across the parched, hilly landscape to reach areas that are as much as a 2-hour walk from the nearest pharmacy.
Tomorrow, if we have a person under a mandatory quarantine, we have the solution to bring medications without exposing any official, without exposing any member of the family of the person who is under the mandatory quarantine. And so, we want to continue moving forward, and we are working together.
Chile has confirmed more than 10,000 cases of coronavirus in the nearly 2 months since the outbreak began. The country has placed strict limits on visits to nursing homes and implemented a system of selective regional quarantines to isolate those who are sick. Sapallar, however, has yet to report a case of coronavirus. Seniors rave about the drone program. The wealthy beach community has also used drones for ocean rescues and to monitor forest and brush fires. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Teddy bears line up while seating at a newspaper shop in France. Nina Armilio tells the story why.
Look, teddy bears. Well, they're here in front of Philip's magazine and newspaper store to remind shoppers to observe physical distancing.
The teddy bears of Legubla came from all parts of the Legubla neighborhood, but now they are starting to spread out in Paris just to bring good humor, smiles, and so that people can talk to each other.
France approaches its 6th week in confinement, but these teddy bears just want to bring smiles to people's faces amid restrictions. They effectively entertain locals and passers-by.
It's rather cheerful. It's fun. I think they have a very human aspect about them.
Moi je trouve qu'ils sont formidables.
I think they're terrific. It does you good. It makes you feel good. It's life in the quarter. Every time the theme changes, it's very nice.
Très agréable.
The stuffed animals are known to many Parisians as teddy bears of Les Gobelins, after the neighborhood where they first popped up. France is locked down to combat the outbreak, which, like Spain, Italy, and many other European countries, includes restrictions on store openings, and people's movements will remain in place until at least May 11, President Emmanuel Macron said earlier this week. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, we are at a time when the country is under a state of health emergency. The cooperation of all Filipinos is imperative to avoid the deadly virus. We are calling on everyone to be calm.
And most importantly, let us join together in prayer for our country and for the whole world to survive this crisis. You may join us in our daily UNTV community prayer at these hours as flashed on your screens. Those are the reasons behind the news. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Good evening.